The time is 7:06 and I'm calling this meeting into order. This meeting is being recorded. Councilwoman Jones, could you do the invocation, please?
Certainly. Our eternal God, our Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for how you've blessed us and how you've kept us and how you're always there for us. Father, as we come together for this meeting on tonight, we ask you to speak to our spirits, Lord. Give us ears to hear and eyes to see and understanding and clarification of what is being presented to the citizens on tonight. We pray for our city, Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, that you would continue to move it forward, that you would bless all of the citizens, Father, those that are, whatever they stand in the need of, Father, meet every need, Lord, not wants, but needs. And we thank you, Father. We ask you, Father, to remember our city mayor, the legislation, the administration, and also the servants that work for the city that keep our city going. We thank you for each and every one of them, Father. We thank you for all of our citizens. We thank you for all of those that have helped, Lord, to bring this charter review into fruition. We thank you for the attorney and her work, Lord. Help us, oh God. Give us strength, oh God, to continue to move forward. In Christ Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you for that. Council Clerk, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Councilwoman Fareed.
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Here.
Councilman Hairston.
Here.
Councilman Herring.
Here.
Councilwoman Jones.
Here.
Council Vice President Ferguson.
Here.
And Council President Curtis.
Here.
All right. You have a forum while I'm here.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
There a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Council Clerk, could you do the roll call, the acceptance of the agenda?
Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume. Okay, thank you. Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes.
Council Vice President.
Yes.
And Council President.
Yes.
Vote carries.
Thank you. Turn this portion of the meeting over to Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council Vice President. So I will just kind of kick us off. Today, we are meeting with the full council after a lengthy and thorough review of the entire charter that was done by the Charter Review Committee, which consisted of Councilman Herring, Council Vice President Ferguson, and myself, Councilwoman Fareed, assisted by Attorney Karen Ruff, who has facilitated this process for us in ensuring that the charter is up to date from a legal perspective, and also providing us advice and guidance as we amended other sections of the charter. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to review the proposed changes that we would like to make to the charter, make sure that the council has a full understanding and an opportunity to ask questions. And after that, we will reconvene as a committee to review what was discussed, make any additional amendments as necessary, and then move forward with the process of presenting a charter resolution with the proposed changes and ensuing on the charter review process as required by law. With that, I am going to turn it over to Attorney Ruff, who will take us through this charter. As she is presenting, we may pause to ask questions or to provide some context and clarification around the discussion that was had at the time of these changes. But certainly, just feel free to ask questions as we typically do in a work session format.
Thank you very much for having me.
So as you all know, your charter is that legal document that establishes the municipality, and it defines your organization, the powers, the functions, the procedures of municipal government, and your form of government. Now the question would become, well, if it is kind of your constitution, if you will, or establishes the municipality, why would you revise it? Well, you would revise it because sometimes over time the provisions become archaic, or state law might change, or federal law might change that require you to change the charter. Practices of the municipal corporation may change, and the needs and desires of your municipal officials and your residents, those you serve, may change over time. And so generally, what jurisdictions do is often establish a charter review committee. And as you did by resolution, right? So a charter review committee is a committee that's appointed by the city council to perform a comprehensive review of the charter and to recommend changes to the city council. Generally, they're conducted periodically. I believe the resolution that you all adopted said you will start doing this every 10 years, which is pretty standard. Some places do it less frequently, some do it more frequently, but 10 years, I think, is what you generally see. So as I referred to just now, your charter review committee was established by way of resolution R34 2022. And it is stated that it was to ensure that the city charter is compatible with current county, state, and federal laws, to ensure it is supportive of the needs of city residents and officials, to balance control with organizational and process flexibility and discretion, and it is beneficial to review the charter periodically to ensure consistency and clarity. So that's what your resolution outlined as the reason for going through this. So the charter committee met and we went through the entire charter. So we started with Article 1. And when you look at Article 1, it's very short. It contains one section, which is called enumeration. And they're really not proposing any substantive changes to that, just a couple of changes that clarify the corporate status of the city. So then we moved on to Article 2. And that is your corporate limit. So the one change that the Charter Review Committee is suggesting is that we say that the corporate boundaries will be on file, not just at City Hall, but they will be maintained with the clerk of or the council clerk, so that people who might want to see what the corporate boundaries are know exactly where to go. They're not directed to a building, but rather to an individual. And so Article 2 had corporate limits with just one section as well. So then we moved on to Article 3, which is organization of council. And that is more lengthy because it dealt with the composition in terms of offices, the qualifications of your council members, your meetings. It also had many other provisions about quorums and rules of business. So it took more time to go through. And so Article 3, which is organization of council, the committee is suggesting that the legislative powers remain with a council consisting of the mayor and 6 council members. So the mayor would now be part of the legislative body and have the ability to have all the powers and duties that a council person has. Elected officials would serve a 4-year term. There would no longer be a president of the council. However, there would be the mayor pro tem who would fill in for the mayor in the case of absence or disability. So as I had indicated previously, the mayor would be part of the council, have the rights of council members to vote, would preside over the meeting, and would no longer have veto power. As for the age qualifications and residency requirements, they would be determined as of the date of filing for candidacy. And candidates for a ward must be a resident of that ward and be a resident of that ward for the entire time that they are on council. That is nothing new. It's just being reinforced. Organization of council also addressed that newly elected council would meet in June of an election year for the purpose of organization. Then there are several months, or not several, that's a misstatement. There are a couple of months in which you are allowed to cancel your meetings per your charter. The committee is suggesting you add December to that list. Yes.
I'm gonna go back to Article 3. All that says how the city shall be vested in council consisting of a mayor and 6 council members. I thought we decided there was gonna be 7 council members when you were picked from among council services.
So this, the council composition would still consist of 7 people. One of those people would be titled the mayor. The other 6 would be council members. So that's what this, and just for anyone listening, is section 301 that we're referring to. All legislative powers of the city shall be vested in a council consisting of a mayor and 6 council members who shall be elected as hereinafter provided and who shall hold office for a term of 4 years or until their successors take office. So when the mayor portion is going to be described in Article 4 when we get there. And so that's where we'll talk about the how council members are elected and also how the mayor is elected.
But the mayor won't, after we said the mayor wasn't gonna be elected, the mayor's gonna be selected.
So we'll need to talk about that when we get to that section, but this particular article wouldn't cover that. This article is just addressing the fact that the mayor and the 6 council members comprise the council now. So there's 7 members, one of them being the mayor, 6 of them being council members. So I guess what I'm saying is, irrespective of the way the mayor is decided, there will be a mayor and 6 council members. Do you see that there would be a difference based on how the mayor is elected? Because I guess what I'm saying is that whether the mayor continues to be elected as that person is now, or selected amongst the council members, once all the election results are in and once the designation is done, there will be someone who is a mayor who will serve as the chair of the council and operate essentially as the council president operates, and then it will be 6 council members. So this is still going to be 7 people.
I just think it's a little confusing, because people are gonna think if they read this, if they're voting for a mayor, and they're not gonna be, they don't know what we do, they're not gonna be voting for the mayor. So the power will be technically vested in 7 council members, and 1 will be selected as in a ceremonial position as mayor. That's what I see. But we can go ahead, we can move
No.
on. It's a discussion, we can,
Well, I know we discussed it the way you, Councilman Herring, you said that, and I was thinking that was kind of like what was going to be written. What I find and have found is that the charter often is not specific enough where you can, I've had many people come and say, well, you say, well, it doesn't say that. And then the first thing they say, well, it doesn't say this either. It's not, because hearing it does seem like there's going to be, we have already decided that it's going to be a mayor and 6 council members, opposed to, the way he was saying it, selected. Can that be written to say that, to be more specific? Because I'm just saying, a lot of times, even going over it, it says something, but it's not clear enough and it's not specific enough. So sometimes you can't even make an argument on what the chart is really saying, because it's not saying what we're saying, even though we know what we mean, but it's literally not saying that.
Okay, so I think we can either combine the sections or we can talk about the organization, because this is only speaking about the structure of the council. The election of the mayor and the election of the council members is specified in Article 4. So in Article 4, Section 401, it speaks to the election and the term of the office. So that is where we would define how the mayor is selected. But regardless of how the mayor is selected, whether it's selected amongst the council members or if we continue to have an election, the organization of the council will still comprise a mayor and 6 council members.
And if I might add, we worked within the paradigm of your existing charter, right? And so rather than pull information from a different article to add to, Article 3, we left Article 3 intact and Article 4 intact and made changes to both articles. So the issue that you're talking about would be addressed in Article 4 in Section 4, I think it's 401, talks about the election and term of the mayor. And then looking for the council.
Council President, I believe President Curtis has his hand raised. I think he had a question.
No, I didn't have a question.
I don't want to take us out of sequence, but we can just keep on going through. I don't want to take us out. We can just address it.
The only comment I had, I can hear him now, but we couldn't hear what Councilman Herron was saying at first. I don't know if he turned on his mic or turned on the computer, but we couldn't hear anything at first. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
We hear him now. Thank you.
And so just for the reminder, I know we've been reviewing this charter for quite a long time. But by consensus of the council, this is the organization that we agreed to, that it would be a legislative body consisting of 7 members, one of them being specified as the mayor and the other 6 being council members. But effectively, the mayor would be acting as the current council president acts. So the mayor would preside over the meetings. And so you'll see throughout that wherever we previously had in the charter reference to council president, that's been replaced by mayor, because that they're operating in that same capacity. So if we look at our total elected officials right now, we have 8 elected officials. We have 7 council members and we have a mayor that's elected. In this new form of government, there will be 7 elected officials, all considered to be the legislative body. So there would be no more executive office. But the person who would operate in a similar capacity as the council president currently operates would be called the mayor.
So it's just a total of 7, right?
7. Did anyone else have any comments on this article before we move on to the next?
Well, there are a couple more things about this article. You'll notice that we are proposing to take out the reference to the Open Meetings Act. And that is not to say that the Open Meetings Act does not apply. However, when you put the act in your charter, every time the General Assembly changes the act, then you need to change your charter. And so there was a revision to the act that was not reflected in the charter, which is kind of what brought that to our attention. You don't want to inadvertently deprive yourselves of that, all of the authority given to you under state law, right? And so what we have replaced that with is an affirmative statement that your meetings will be open to the public, except as allowed to be closed under the Open Meetings Act. So that way you don't have to worry about amending your charter every time state law changes. So the next item for discussion was kind of what actions, and I might turn this over to Councilwoman Fareed, because what actions are going to require council approval, and that kind of dovetails into the simplified process for adopting resolutions.
So this we had conversation on, and I'm not sure that we came to a consensus on it, but just to provide some context, this was where we were discussing whether or not there were certain types of resolutions that could be sort of expedited versus those that, and so simple examples would be, I don't know, I can't even think of a simple example right now, but versus something that's more complex, like if we needed to get a grant or something like that, because we do have some resolutions that don't really I'm not going to say don't require public comment, but that they're not, every resolution is not at the same level, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Some are for very simple items, and some are for more complex, thoughtful items. And so the question is, can we separate those so that right now, our practice is typically you bring a resolution to the work session, then it goes to a public hearing, and then we vote on it. And so the question is, could we adopt a practice that many other municipalities do where they bring resolutions forward, what we would need to categorize as these simple resolutions and put some definition around that, where it will allow them to be introduced and voted on at the same time? Or is it a possibility that some of these things don't require resolutions? And through our discussions, I think the sentiment was that we wanted to preserve the decisions that were being made by the council via the resolution. So in that way, every council action would have a resolution. But I think the part that's still not resolved is, can we have sort of two tracks for resolutions? And we would need to define what those simple resolutions are versus what those resolutions are that need the more deliberate process of going through a work session, public comment, and then a vote. So are there thoughts on that? And maybe Ms. Ruff, you could provide examples of how other municipalities do this more, introducing and voting on the same night. One of the other considerations that we needed to make was that we don't want to use this sort of simplified process as a way to circumvent the voice of the citizens, because there are definitely resolutions where we want, where the opinion of the public is important to making a decision on how you're going to vote. Versus, I don't know, I still can't think of an example, but something that's just sort of routine that we need to do anyway.
To declare a particular month in favor of an event, or I can't think of one, breast cancer awareness is one of the ones. You'll see people adopt a resolution, for breast cancer awareness for the month of what have you. That is a resolution that might fall within, you could adopt it in the same night as you introduce it, right?
Okay, so in my tenure as council president and working with the city manager at that time, Timothy George, he came forth with we needed to adopt a simpler way of doing resolutions. And one of the things that he brought forth was we had money in the budget to pave the parking lot. Well, as the city manager, and he saw the monies was there, he just went ahead and contracted the people to come out, and they came out, and the resolution was written, but it was like a simple matter where it was just he just went ahead and got that done. Some of the streets that we already had monies in the budget already allocated for, those types of things, the city manager can just go ahead and call a contractor, or get someone to come in and have those things done. It wasn't necessarily for us to go through a whole process because the monies had already been allocated. It wasn't like we were trying to find monies to get something done.
And along those lines, a lot of jurisdictions, if the money is budgeted, which is key, and if it's a project that's already identified in your budget, they will bring forth the contract for approval as a resolution that would be able to be introduced and adopted the same night. Because you've already identified that the project is necessary in your CIP or in your budget, you've already allocated the funds. And so really the next step is simply awarding the contract.
Matt, let me just say, in my 20 years on the council, citizens want to have a say in how their money is spent. Yes, you may bring a contract, but is that the best contract for the city? Is that something that needs to have discussion in the citizens? If you're going to if $100,000 is approved in the budget, and you're going to bring a resolution for the city manager going to come out here with a $100,000 contract, and we're going to just vote on it that night, basically introduce it and vote on it that night with no discussion, I don't think that's fair to the citizens at all. They should be able to have a say on how their tax dollars are spent, no matter how little or how large it is. Again, this is not our money. This is the taxpayers' money. This is the citizens' money, and they have a right to see and say and speak on how it's spent. Us pushing things through was a big issue before, and that's why we put that those procedures in place about the 6-day waiting period, because citizens wanted to know what the government was doing, because people were pushing through resolutions. Everything became a let's say not a major resolution. It was just being dropped, and even charter resolutions were just being dropped out there at one time. So I think the process we have in place need to stay. I mean, it's just part of the job. It's part of being an elected official. It's part of to ensure that your money is being spent adequately, and that, you know, again, to say because it's in a budget and somebody comes up with a contract, and I've seen the council be like, okay, well, we're gonna this meets the qualifications of another municipality, so it went through the bid process. So there's really no place for conversation on contracts as it is now, because most of our contracts we piggyback on. So again, I think that leaves the citizens out of the equation when it comes down to how their dollars are being spent, and that the voice is not going to be heard. And that's what I don't want to see happen here, is that the voices are not going to be heard. I can see you, like you say, if it's a proclamation for a day, you know, or a month, that's different. You can just do it. You can just do a consent. I mean, you can do you can just take a vote on the floor, motion on the floor for that without any resolution, you know? So.
Okay, so
thanks.
thank you, Councilman Herring. That's what I wanted to clarify. I think the first question to sort out is, do we believe in not trying to define them yet? I think Ms. Ruff was just giving us examples of what other municipalities do. But without defining what would fall into which category, do we think that there's a way that some resolutions could be done simpler? It sounds like you're saying, Councilman Herring, that we could even just bring motions to the floor and it wouldn't require a resolution. I think that's a little, I agree with that. I think it would make things easier, but I don't know what that would do for our documentation or the concerns that people had around documentation. But I think the first question is, do we agree that there can be resolutions that are put into a simple category and can kind of be introduced and voted on in a meeting, and then others that would fall into a category of going through the work session, going through public comment, and then going through the vote?
President Curtis has his hand raised. President Curtis, did you want to speak?
Yeah, so I think I got, I guess, a little bit more clarity with what Councilwoman Fareed just said. I thought the review committee was going to come with a recommendation that we would, you know, vote on, but it seems like we're not doing that. We're just trying to establish basically what Councilwoman Fareed just said. Are we okay with having some resolutions that don't have to go through the official process, which it seems like, I mean, I would be, you just got to define it of, you know, what will it be? So is that something that the committee's going to do, or something that you guys are asking the entire council to do, to come up with this, what this will look like?
So thank you, Council President, for that. This was something that we did bring up previously. If you recall, we had a similar session several months ago where we brought the items that were sort of open items that the committee was deliberating on and discussing. And this particular one just didn't have a resolution. So that's why we're bringing it up again to talk about it. When we did talk about it, what I recall the consensus being was that there needed to be documentation of all our decisions, and that was expected to happen via a resolution. So that's fine, but it still doesn't address the issue of, can we have some that go through a simplified process and some that go through the more deliberative process? And if we can resolve that, then the committee can make suggestions as to what goes into the simplified category and what goes into the longer category. But we can't do that until we at least get a consensus from the council. Do you agree that not all resolutions need to be treated equally?
So I agree, and can we just do it sort of like how we do it now. So if there's a motion, you know, to I don't know, whatever you call it, to adopt a decision that doesn't necessarily need a resolution. Can there just be a motion that we use a certain, I don't know, particular phrase that, hey, like, let's say Councilman Harris saying, hey, I motion that we, you know, use the expedited process for lack of a better terms. And there's a second, and then if the council agrees, we agree, and then in those type of resolutions will be voted on just like that. It's an opinion expressed by the council. But if there's something like, you know, let's say I present something and I wanted to go through the expedited process, then it could be halted with a motion that it go through the regular process. And if 4 council members agree, then it goes through the entire process. But if not, then it goes through the expedited process. And I know I said a lot, but something, I mean, you know, that's just the raw idea right there. But if we could build something based on that, then could that work?
So I hear what you're saying, Council President, but I do think that one of the things that we're trying to preserve is what Councilman Herring spoke about, and the need to make sure that there aren't resolutions that are just being brought forward that really should, you know, warrant public interest in comment, but because 4 council members are saying it doesn't, it just goes through. So I really do think we need to define what types of resolutions go through simplified and which ones don't, rather than it being an ad hoc decision made by the council members. Because remember, this charter is not just for the 7 people sitting up here, right? It's going to be enduring for the next 10 years unless a charter resolution, you know, so we don't know who's going to be on the council. And we do not want to end up back in the situation that Councilman Herring is describing, where, you know, resolutions were just being dropped in, really significant resolutions that should go through a more deliberative process. So if we define that, and I'm just going to jump down because it's similar for the emergency ordinances, right? Like establishing guidelines of when a resolution can go through a simplified process versus when it cannot, and what is a definition of an emergency versus when it's not. Because I think right now how we're doing emergency ordinances is how the council president described, that we're basically just saying as long as 4 members agree that it's an emergency, it's an emergency.
So do you guys have this criteria in this presentation?
I can't hear the, we can't hear you, council president, you cut out.
I'm sorry. So do you guys have this criteria in this presentation?
No, that's why we're trying to understand from the council, do we agree that there should be guidelines? If we're not in agreement that there should be guidelines, then we wouldn't go back and create them. That's what we're trying to establish now. Do we agree that for resolutions, some can go through a simplified process and others can go through a more complex process? And if we at least have that agreement, then we can go back and define and deliberate as a committee and say, this is our recommendation for the types of resolutions that would go through this simplified expedited process. And similarly for the emergency definition.
Okay, I agree.
Councilwoman Jones.
Okay, so no, let's keep going.
Well, we need to make a consensus, because this is what happened last time. We didn't have a consensus. So can we take a consensus on resolutions being separated into 2 categories, the definition of them to be forthcoming, but agreeing that some resolutions can go through a simplified process and others would go through the more deliberative process? Can we take a consensus on that?
May I give a suggestion? Now, just like the last meeting, we just voted on the floor to lift the stop work order. Mm-hmm. You know, we just did that on the floor. So can we say any resolution that has a dollar amount affixed to it goes through the regular process, and any other resolution can go through the expedited, like appointments, or, you know, because we always have to go through, you know, 2 phases with appointments. Mm-hmm. A lot of times appointments are not residents, we really don't give them the ability to really speak on those because really you're looking at personnel actions.
Right.
You know, so I like appointments, stop work orders, anything that's not affixed with a dollar amount. But I don't want to, you know, but something may come up though that be made. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of that if we're going to separate them right now, that may be something we can do now and maybe fine-tune it later to see if it works.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The only thing is I can't think of, well, like I would want to look through kind of a history of resolutions that we have to see if there are any that fall out of there. But what you're saying, if a dollar amount, that sounds like the ones that should go through a more deliberative process. And certainly the ones that are appointments like personnel items should not, because the citizens wouldn't have a basis to even provide comment on because they can't see that information. They weren't privy to the interviews. So that makes sense.
And appointments also.
Right. So I think that's a good preliminary kind of separation, but it sounds like we at least have agreement that some can go through a separate process than others. Is there anyone who disagrees with that? Is there anyone who feels like they should all go through the same process? Councilwoman Jones, I'm just going to ask you because you were going to make a comment.
I believe we should do a simplified process, but I'm just thinking if we have some resolution that comes up that is just not in the norm that we've ever seen, or something comes up, then how do we determine? Because I kind of agreed with Council President Curtis, where if the council saw a resolution and said, "Oh, okay, we can put this through the simplified, we get a consensus, 4 people, the quorum says 4 people, then I would be fine with that, but like I said, when I seen it done here before, it was because there was $75,000 in the budget to do the parking lot outside. The city manager at that time saw that money and said, okay, I'm just gonna call the persons that are doing the streets and ask them, can they do this too? And that's what happened. There was a resolution written, but it was already gone and the parking lot was done. It was no month-long process to do that. So,
Got it.
no, I believe it should be 2. It should be a simplified process and a process for a more.
Let me just say, and that's exactly why we need to have a process in place, because for a city manager to spend $75,000 of the citizens' tax dollars and they have no say on it, that's a major problem.
Right. So
That's a major problem.
No, wait a minute now, because it was the money was in the budget. The citizens saw the money when we did the budget, when the budget process was done, that money was allocated in the budget. It was not like citizens never saw that or never had a say on it, because it was in the budget allocated.
I hear what you're saying. I think what we can do is let us take this away and come up with a definition. It sounds like what the best course of action would be is to define what falls in the simplified category, and anything that is not that goes through the regular process. Right, so we can keep it simple. Simplified is personnel, and we'll go through those types of things, and then anything else would be going through the regular process. And so we've got that point, then the guidelines for emergency ordinances. I know there's differing opinions on that, whether we should define what constitutes an emergency. And I think the sentiment is similar to defining what goes into a simplified one, right? Because if we just go by the consensus of the council, then the council really could say anything is an emergency ordinance if you get the right 4 people to say so.
So I have a question. I was always, and this may be a point of clarity for myself, when an emergency ordinance came forward, I always thought that was because it was done by some state regulation. When you have an ordinance and it's an emergency, you have to take a vote on it. Attorney Ruff, is that a Robert's Rule type thing, or is that a state guideline that we have to follow when it comes to emergency ordinances? Because even for the emergency ordinance, I think you have to have 5 people to say yes for it.
Supermajority vote, yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. So when you do a emergency ordinance, it generally requires a supermajority vote. when you do an emergency ordinance, it also allows you to have it become effective immediately because it's an emergency. Now, I have seen charters that are like yours currently is, that just says if you declare it to be an emergency, it's an emergency. There are others that say in order for it to be declared an emergency, it has to affect the health, safety, welfare of the residents. So I think that's really what it boils down to. That would be the caveat, I would say, you would be adding to your charter if you wanted to adopt guidelines with respect to the emergency ordinance provision.
Thank you for that clarity.
To me, man, yeah, and in the past, that's the caveat that we used to use for emergency ordinances. I mean, our previous attorney was just like, she's like, you're just doing them just to do them. We're just doing emergency ordinance just to get them done and out the way to get them started. And we really shouldn't have. She's like, a lot of this doesn't constitute emergencies. So I think that's what we were using. It was unwritten, but that's what we used.
So we're going to then clarify the language in here saying the health, safety and welfare of the citizens. Okay, so those two issues are then resolved with the follow-up action from the committee of defining what falls into the simplified process for resolutions. And one point of clarification, for that simplified process, are we going to say that we need to do a formal resolution, like something written up, or that it's optional?
I think something should be written for when other councils come in, people come in, they can refer back to or look in the archives or for those resolutions to see how and what was done. Because you get new city managers coming in or people coming in and say, well, where did this come from?
Right.
So that you need something.
And that's what I understood. That's what I understood to be the case, that we still wanted documentation via a written resolution that is signed, even if it's going through that simplified process. Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions on Article 3? Okay. There are no more questions on Article 3? Okay, well, y'all didn't even say anything.
Okay. So now we would move on to Article 4, which the title is the mayor. And what is being proposed is that the person must attain the age of 21 prior to the time of filing for candidacy. The mayor would be a member of the council, be the head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes. And I mean, that's really kind of the summary of what is here. And then the mayor pro tem is also addressed in Article 4. And that person would fill in the event of illness or disability or a reason that the mayor was unable to fulfill duties.
Council President? Okay, so I wanted to provide some context because, as everyone knows, we've been looking at this charter over a significantly long time. So, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Guillaume has her hand up.
Oh, you can see.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed and Council President. You guys probably stated this before, but it's on par of what we're talking about right now. As the mayor within this new structure, will that mean that they will be mayor for 4 years, or is it every year we revisit who's going to be the mayor/mayor pro tem as well?
Yeah, so we haven't touched on it yet because we're going through the different sections. So we're just at the start of Article 4, which is dealing with Section 401, the election. So that's what we're about to talk about.
Gotcha. And
Okay.
I'm done with my question, but I can't figure out how to put my hand down, so my hand is technically down.
Okay. So that is what I was about to address, and given the context that we've done this over a period of time. So when we did Article 4, As you can see in the red line changes, we actually had not yet had the discussion or came to a consensus as a council on how the mayor would be elected, or that the way the mayor was going to be elected would change. So what you see here reflected in the charter doesn't change the way the mayor is elected. The mayor currently is elected by the citizens, and as it's written here, that would be the case. But I know through discussions that there are council members who are wanting the mayor to, instead of being elected by the citizens, to be elected amongst the council. And I believe that came from, as we were reviewing the different models of council manager forms of government, different municipalities that have that structure. Greenbelt has the structure where they select from amongst the elected, they select from amongst the elected council members who the mayor is going to be. And so there was a desire by council members to do the same here in the city of Glenarden. But I do think it's worth us discussing sort of the context, particularly around how Greenbelt has their organization structured, and also just kind of referring back to what the point of the Charter Review Committee is, as it's the point of the Charter Review Committee was to identify a government structure that would help us operate more efficiently, and to update the charter for practices that were different, things that we were doing differently than what was actually reflected in the charter, as well as updating the charter for any legal changes that needed to be there. So with those kind of parameters defining what the purpose of the Charter Review Committee is doing, I think it's important for us to address the election of the mayor, because the election of the mayor it doesn't impact the form of government that we would have. It's not a practice that we had, it's not been our practice to select the mayor versus having the mayor be elected. So I just, want to put that up for discussion, but also give it to Ms. Ruff to discuss the Greenbelt structure and why it works for Greenbelt.
Well, the Greenbelt, so let me back up. Whenever you're making changes to your charter, you want to be careful that you're not mixing apples and oranges, right? So when you're looking at how Greenbelt does it, you have to remember that Greenbelt is all elected at large. So if they select among themselves who is the mayor, all of them have been elected at large. They don't have what you have here, which is a combination of the ward system and the at-large seats. So that's one thing. The second thing is, in Greenbelt, traditionally, the person who has been selected as the mayor, as I understand it, has been the one who gets the most votes. I don't know that that's necessarily a written thing, but that's how they have done it over the years, as I understand it. So I would say to you, I was not present when this initial concept came up. We had at the committee meetings had a lot of discussion about having the mayor be part of the council. And I think this came up at another work session of the council where I wasn't here. And so I don't have the benefit of hearing what you all had talked about, but I just want to make sure that you understand that with Greenbelt, the way they're elected is different than how you're elected here. So.
Councilman Harris?
Mr. Councilman Harrison can go.
So my question, I wanted to know, what was the benefit in going either way? Because I don't know if I heard what the benefit is. I heard they structured, and I hear structure that we leaning into, but what's the benefit of either staying this way or going this way?
So, Councilman Harrison, I think each of us is going to have our own opinion, so I'll give my opinion. My opinion is that in the city of Glenarden, traditionally, the citizens have voted for the mayor. That has not been an area of concern. Right, that's not impacting the form of government. So in my opinion, I'm not sure why we would take that away from the citizens and not allow them to vote for the mayor anymore. And I also, when we have had public comment around us changing the structure of the government, I feel that the sentiment that was expressed the most by citizens was they wanted their voice to be heard. And I think, that's something that we take pride in as a council, as even we're talking about resolutions, and dollar amounts, even for things that have already been budgeted, we're still saying that the citizens should have a voice in that. So I feel that the most democratic way about choosing the mayor would be to continue to allow the people to choose the mayor. And, the difference with Greenbelt's example is that in Greenbelt, everyone is at large. So that means that everyone in the city of Greenbelt had an opportunity to vote for those people. The way our structure is set up currently with our ward systems, I'm a Ward 3 council member. The only people that voted for me are from Ward 3. If we were to go with the option of choosing amongst the council members, then potentially someone who only had, and I'm just breaking, I don't know the actual numbers, but someone who only had a third of the city vote for her could now be the mayor and the head, and so to me, stepping away as a council member, right, just looking at myself as a Glenarden citizen and just a citizen that believes in democracy, I think that wouldn't be fair to the 2/3 of the people who didn't even get to vote for me, that now I am the mayor of the city. While our structure is a weak mayor now, if something were to happen, the governor would be calling the mayor. So we can't, pretend that the role of the mayor doesn't mean anything at all. As we said, the mayor would be the chair of the council and the head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes. So I do feel like we should retain the ability of citizens to elect the person who's going to be mayor. And in addition, what Greenbelt does is not only are they all voted at large, they actually go with the person who had the most votes. That's not documented, but that's been their tradition. And ultimately what that preserves is the voice of the people, because whoever is the mayor is basically the people's choice, the person who got the most votes. So that's my perspective on this. I know others have different perspectives, so I will let them share.
All right, thanks.
Let me say, I could have sworn we decided at the last meeting that we were going to go with 7 council members and picking a mayor from amongst the council. And here we're back at the same situation. My thing is, it doesn't really matter whether you're at large or your wards. At large, I think it's one of the most unfair ways to have people represent you in the city. But unfair, picking a mayor again, voting for the mayor. It's right now they vote for the mayor and the mayor have absolutely no power whatsoever. It's all fluff. It's puff. Again, at least if you have 7 council members and you pick from amongst the council, that mayor has the same power as everybody else. I think that we should do what we're doing right now. Vote for 7 council members and pick from amongst yourself. Greenbelt, obviously, it works for them. They do well every time. They don't have all that what we have with a mayor running around, doing what they're doing. They're part of the council. But I could have sworn we discussed this at the last meeting, and we came to a consensus that we wanted to move forward with that form of government where we have the vote 7 council members and then have the mayor in a ceremonial role, which is basically what should be outlined in this charter, because I saw it in some other charters that it just simply says the mayor should have a ceremonial role and that's it, and will be given whatever other powers that the council decides to give that person in that role. So like again, if something happens, they will call. You will need a representative as a mayor, but the decisions that are going to be made will be more than likely made by the council, because the mayor will have to bring it back to the council. So I just think we need to move forward with like we were doing again. I thought it was settled actually. This part of the charter, because I could have sworn a majority wanted to move forward with the 7 council members and then selecting from amongst themselves. So. I mean, I don't know where it changed or when it changed. Thank you.
I'm not remembering whether or not we brought this to the full council.
Council President? Council President? Yeah.
Council President
Yeah.
has his hand raised.
We did discuss this. What I was saying was that it wasn't reflected in the changes that we had made here in the charter. And so what we need to discuss, and Ms. Ruff, as Ms. Ruff said, she was not a part of that conversation. So we never discussed it even in the Charter Review Committee. And I think she wanted to make sure that we were aware of the structure that we were kind of trying to model ourselves after is fundamentally different in their structure, because they have all of their members being at large versus ours, which is has wards. And she wanted to make sure that that was understood and considered in making this decision. I think when we're talking about electing the mayor, it's difficult to talk about that apart from the composition of the other 6 council members, which is an item that is still open for us. And you'll see that we still have not decided if we want to keep it as is, or if we want to go with everybody at large, if we want to do 2-2-2. We haven't decided that. So we need to have those 2 conversations together. They're not really separate.
Council President Curtis.
Yeah, so I'll just give my opinion on this. So when we say that the citizens will not be electing the mayor, I disagree with that, because the citizens will be electing all of their elected representatives. It'll just be the council selecting the mayor. So I understand where we're coming from with this, but I think some people have the tendency to stretch the things that we say. So all elected representatives will be actually elected. Mm-hmm. It's just for the mayor spot, it being selected. And my vote is that the citizens elect 7 members, 7 representatives. And then from those 7 elected representatives, those individuals select who they want to be the mayor of the council. And then that we can go from there. Now, term, I don't know if you want to be a year or 2 years. I don't know. But that's my vote. If the attorney is saying that that structure works, but it only works with all at large, then I'm fine with that too. So that's my opinion on the matter. Thanks.
So I'm personally not with everybody being at large. I believe every ward should have representation. So I'm never going to really agree with that at large thing. I can go either way with the mayor thing, to be honest, but I feel like each ward should have representation. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Madam President, and let me say, you don't need all at large to function, heavy government function at all. Again, as the council president said, Councilman Curtis said, everybody's elected, everybody's represented, everybody's had a voice in their say. Again, it's a ceremonial role. And that's what I think we're missing here. There should not be no major powers given to the mayor in this structure of government, except for what we allow them to have. Again, I looked at buoys, I think it was buoys or greenbelts, and it said they will have this one line: the mayor should have a ceremonial role and be given whatever responsibilities the council so chooses. So I'm not really getting the point with this electing the mayor, we elect the mayor now and she has virtually no power. Again, I think that, again, and I'm going to tell you this, if we're talking about fair representation, when it comes down to the mayor, I still think you're not giving fair representation when it comes down to the citizens with 4 at-large and 3 ward representatives. So if we're going to do fair representation, then we need to do it across the board. Again, the ward system makes, and then you won't have to worry about who's getting the most votes or anything. Because again, everybody will probably get the same if it's equally distributed amongst the representation is equally distributed amongst the wards. But again, my feeling is vote for 7 council members and we pick from the mayor amongst ourselves. And that's my feeling on that one.
Councilwoman Jones, do you have an opinion?
Electing, like, the way the charter is set up now, the elected mayor we have has no power. And that's, from my opinion, over the years, the charter has been changed to reflect that. So,
Your mic is not.
I would, we could give it a try. Continue with 1-1-1 and the rest at large, and then the mayor would be selected. We could give it a try because what we have now is not working for us. It hasn't been working, and in the last, since I've been on, let's say I've been on the council, because like I said, the charter has been changed where the mayor, in this case, whether it be the elected mayor, has no power. So right now I'm in favor of, let's do the 7. Like I said, with 1-1-1, one representative for Ward 1, 1 representative for Ward 2, and 1 representative for Ward 3, and the rest at large. Because even at large, we're still, and as an at large person, you're still representing. I mean, I have people, I'm at large, and I have people calling me from Ward 1, 2, and 3, and I do whatever is necessary. So it's not like the people are not being represented. At large, we're still representing whoever, wants to contact us. So that, I would give that a try, whereas the mayor is elected out of the body that's elected. I understand that some citizens want to elect a mayor, but there's no one here or we haven't heard from any citizens that say, we want to elect our own mayor in this as long as this process has been going on.
Well, that's where I would differ. I feel like that was explicitly the predominant comment that was made when we had that session in the Gold Room. Mm-hmm. People feeling like we were taking away their voice. That was expressed several times, of people saying that we're not allowing them to vote for the mayor, where they felt like we were removing the mayor's office, and we had to clarify that. So I do feel like that was the commentary. I will go with what the consensus of the council is. Like I said, everyone's going to have their opinion on it. I lean heavily towards trying to be as what I consider to be democratic as possible, meaning that every citizen has an opinion on, when it comes to electing the officials. I am fine with moving forward with what you suggested, Miss Jones. My clarifying question or follow-up question to you would be, are you okay with the mayor potentially being one of the ward representatives?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they're an elected official. They have the same powers and duties as everyone else. And then the pro tem mayor, if you're mayor for a year, if you're selected from the council to be mayor for a year, it's ceremonial, and then the pro tem mayor will step in if there's an issue. So then the next year, it will be someone else selected from the council.
Okay, so that's another issue that we haven't decided yet, whether or not whether or not the mayor would be selected for the 4 years or selected every year.
Now, if the mayor is selected by the people, then I would say it would be for the 4 years. But if the mayor is going to be selected within the body, then I think the council would have the option to give the term for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. But if the mayor is elected by the people, if it's out there, okay, we're going to have a mayor that's going to be elected by the people, then I think that person should stay in for 4 years. But if we decide to have the mayor selected from the body, the legislative body, then it's up to the council to say, 1 year, 2 years.
Okay, so we've heard from 2 council members who have, who are on the side of selecting the mayor. Councilman Hairston, you said you can go either way. My opinion is to elect the mayor. So we need a council president. So that's 3 who have said to select the mayor from amongst the council.
Councilwoman Fareed? Oh, sorry.
Councilwoman Guillaume can go. I'm good.
Sorry, my audio's messing up, so I had to keep changing devices, so I apologize. But I agree with what I've heard so far as selecting the mayor amongst the elected body. So the way we choose council president right now is the way I would recommend choosing the mayor. I believe Councilwoman Jones is the one that I heard last explain it or express it in the manner that I would. I would also want to state that from a Democrat, I know I heard you, Councilwoman Fareed, mention that it's the most democratic way.
In my opinion, sorry.
In
my opinion.
Yeah, okay, your opinion. What I recall, at least as far as the general outcry of a few years ago, was citizens were saying they wanted to elect their mayor because there was a rumor that was put out there that we were eliminating the office of the mayor, like that position overall. And so, of course, if I'm hearing that unsubstantiated rumor, I would, of course, say, wait, we always wanted a mayor, we always wanted a mayor, we always wanted a mayor. So in this context, the mayor that Glenarden has typically chosen never really had, well, at least since I've been in this role, they didn't have enough power. I mean, I'm putting power in air quotes, you all can't see me. But right now, if we are saying that they're going to serve as council president, to me, it's the exact same way that right now in our current current structure, we elect council president. The people don't elect council president. So right now, Councilman Curtis has been the elected chair of the council. The people didn't vote for that. We did. And it's still, in my opinion, democratic. So right now, I feel that we should do what, in my opinion, what Councilwoman Jones stated, which is elected from the body. That's it. And sorry for interrupting Councilman Hairston and everybody.
I don't have a question now. She kind of answered it. Thanks.
Since you have been talking about the Greenbelt model, I would like to give you a little bit of information about how they do it, just so you know what you're fashioning yourselves after. So they have the powers of the city are vested in a council of 5 members. Well, it was 5, now they changed it to 7, okay, who are elected from the city at large as set forth in their charter. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to paraphrase so I don't read the whole thing. Then at its first meeting following a regular municipal election, the council chooses one of its members as mayor and shall also choose one of its members as mayor pro tem. The mayor shall preside at meetings of the council and shall exercise such other powers and perform such other duties as are or may be conferred or imposed upon him by the charter and the ordinances of the city, which I believe is the language that Mr. Herring was referring to earlier. He shall be recognized as a head of city government for ceremonial purposes, by the courts for serving civil process, and by the governor for purpose of military law. And then if a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor in the case of his absence or disability, the mayor pro tem shall act. So again, I just wanted to make sure that you understood how they function.
Council President, Council Vice President. So the mayor is just really a name. It's just a council president and a council vice president, but we just using the title mayor. Because are they having the same duties? Is it just a name?
No, right now, the council president does not have all of the duties that the mayor, as described by Greenbelt, has. So even when we say like how we select our council president now, they don't have the same responsibilities. We still have an elected mayor. So what we're doing is we're not just eliminating that role. Those powers are now going to be vested in the person who has that title. Those powers are not going away. It's not like there's no more of that piece that the mayor does. It's just now the council president, if we want to look at it that way, it's more that the council president role is being added to. So right now, our council president would not be the person. Can you read the part about like the courts and the military, and like our council president would not be that person right now. If something were to happen, it would be Mayor Cross.
So you saying like we just combining the duties in one?
Right. So it's not really equivalent to say that it's the same, like it's a swap. It's really a new role that's being created, because this mayor, the new mayor, would have the same responsibilities, as limited as they are now, that the mayor currently has, plus the legislative powers.
So this a question: do you think that it's feasible to pass the torch every year? Because it's a lot to deal with if you just combining it, like both of them together. So should we just be passing the torch each year?
I don't think so.
That can possibly set us backwards, right?
I don't think so. I think it should be once that person is determined, it's that person is in the space for 4 years, but we haven't really gotten to that part yet. But I mean, I think that's the important piece for us to look at. This is not just eliminating the mayor role and renaming the council president as the mayor. Like this is really a new role that's being created that has the powers that the current council president has, as well as the mayor.
Thanks.
Madam President, let me just, because I just want to get some clarification on this, because again, what Ms. Ruff just read, basically there's really nothing to it, really. I mean, recognizes the mayor for, the ceremonial services, in courts. Of course, you're going to know the court's going to send it to somebody, to send it to the mayor. I mean, at least we'll know we're getting something, because right now we don't know when we're getting anything, from the current one we got. We don't know when we're getting summonses or anything else. But I think what it does really, it does enhance the president's role, but it doesn't enhance it by much, because again, remember, when we do this, we won't have a mayor that can veto any longer. Or a mayor that has to, approve contracts and award the contracts. So a lot of stuff comes out of the responsibilities of this current mayor that won't be with the new structure we have in government. So I just wanted to, just be clear, because I think it's going to flow much smoother, because again, the decision that's made by the council is the decision that's made by the council, and that's it. We don't have to have anybody else intervening in the middle of it as the mayor who said, I won't submit the contract or I won't sign the check. So thank you.
I am for 7 council members and to select the mayor pro tem among the 7 council members.
Okay. Sorry.
Ward, as far as wards versus at large. I don't go either way, but I do know that in the past I've heard citizens traditionally want to stay with at least a ward rep. So I would go 1-1-1 and at large, or I can go at large. But definitely, I think just from hearing people, they like the fact to have at least one ward representative.
President Curtis has his hand raised.
President Curtis.
So a couple comments. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle here. One, so I don't know if it's just me.
Can you speak up a little
I
bit,
don't-
please?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if it's just me, but I didn't hear too much additional powers being added here. Like, from what I heard, it's like in case of emergency, or if the governor needs to reach out, or the army needs to reach out. But those are in times of special circumstances, and it's it's rare. And from the government that we have now, the mayor doesn't have any additional powers. So it's not like this new position is gaining like this ton of power that is going to alter the universe or anything like that. So it's more, from my understanding, and I could be wrong. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a contact person, but that individual would have been selected from the council to be the individual that would be able to share whatever information that person is called upon back with the city and to be the face. So that's one thing. Two, I do agree that what Council Member Fareed said, that it's might be unfair for someone who has been only has 1/3 of the vote to be eligible to be mayor. I think the argument could go both ways. And could that person govern over the entire city? Possibly, but I certainly understand the optics of only having 1/3 vote and be a voter mayor. So could it be that only the at-large individuals be eligible for that position if the structure is still going to be 1-1-1-4, where you have 1 representatives for the 3 wards and 4 at large? Can it be that the at-large people are the only ones that's eligible for that seat to make it fair? I'm just thinking of ways to compromise to fit all of the needs here so that we can move forward. So thanks.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I think that something like that would be fair. And I just wanted to go back to what my point was around the purpose of the charter and how, the Charter Review Committee, and my statement around the way that the mayor is elected does not impact whether or not we would have a council manager form of government. So I want that to be clear. It would still be a council manager form as we're talking about, where it would be ceremonial in nature. It's not how we select the mayor is not defining how much power they have. The structure of the government as we're defining it in the organization is what determines the power. And so, yes, the mayor is ceremonial in addition to the responsibilities that the council president has. And my stance was the way that we elect a mayor, and unless I'm missing something from the arguments of why electing the mayor is a hindrance or why that is creating a problem that we need to change it. So that was the perspective that I'm coming from, because I'm only looking to change things in the charter that need to be changed because they're outdated, they're misaligned to our actual practices, or they are contributing or not contributing to the new form of government that we wanted to move forward with. But if we move forward with this structure of selecting the mayor versus electing the mayor, and we stay with the ward members, and as well as having at large, which has been the tradition as well, that selecting the mayor from amongst the at-large representatives would be the closest thing to what we have now, so that at least the citizens could say that the person who, even for ceremonial purposes, or even as long as we've had this weak mayor structure, people have still been able to say that they elected the mayor, that they could at least say that the person who is the mayor is someone that they potentially voted for versus one of the ward members. And I'm saying that as a ward member, right? I'm just looking at it from not being on the council, if I was on the outside. So I think that the compromise that's being offered of having the mayor selected, maintaining the ward structure, having one ward representative for each of the 3 wards, and that would leave 4 at-large council members, and then having the mayor selected from the at-large council members is the compromise. It seems to be addressing all of the issues or concerns that have been expressed here.
Madam President.
Sorry, Council President.
Oh, wait.
I can't see.
Council President.
President.
Sorry.
Curtis.
All right, and thank you, Councilwoman Fareed, for that summarization. The only thing that's left, I think, is the point that Councilmember Hairston pointed out of changing that every year. So I'm willing to have that be every 2 years if that will provide some consistency. But I think that that's the only other thing that I forgot to mention in that compromise is that instead of it being changing out every year, it's changed out every couple years. Want to throw that out as well to satisfy Councilmember Hairston's concern.
Councilman Harris.
Yeah, let me say this, because I think we're getting lost in this mayor elected, mayor not elected thing. I don't care what we do. Once we select the mayor from amongst ourselves, they're going to say they didn't elect the mayor. So, and I think every council member up here, all 7 council members should be eligible to serve in that position, no matter whether you're at Ward 1 representative or Ward 2 representative, Ward 3, or you're at large. Again, you know, it's amongst your colleagues who you feel will be best able to serve in that capacity, because it's really just, again, a ceremonial position. Everybody has the same vote. Whoever you vote in, everybody has the same vote. No one has more power than the other person. The position of mayor offers you nothing additional, except for, as Councilman Curtis said, in times of emergency or war. But everybody should be open to that opportunity if their colleagues so choose to serve in that position. Because again, it's only a ceremonial position, and they will lead the meetings. I mean, we do that right now. And it isn't saying we're not going to say, okay, you can't be me, Councilman Harrison or Councilwoman Fareed can't be council president because we're ward representatives. You know that we actually, and the council president, has I'm gonna tell you honestly, the council president actually has really more power than the mayor. And there's been times where we had council presidents that were from wards, and we had council presidents that were at large, but it was from amongst their colleagues. So it's no different than what we're doing right now. And I think, again, no matter what, the citizens are going to say they didn't elect the mayor, no matter who you pick and how you go. And I think, again, it is something we need to change it up and do something a little different and give, like I say, and just have the opportunity to open. I don't think we should cut it down. There's really no compromise to really have, because again, the position doesn't offer anything additional. Really, it's just ceremonial. And I think that's where we're getting lost at, the whole election thing. Because again, we all are elected into office. We all are voting on legislation. The mayor's vote the mayor will not have a veto. There will be no veto in this form of government. So there's nothing really substantial that it's going to be that position does that, we don't currently do right now. So, all right, thank you.
So Councilman Herring, I just have I guess because you've been on the council the longest, you've seen more of the history. Is there a problem currently with the mayor being elected? Because I guess that's the part that I'm not hearing, because I feel like that's not an issue now, so I'm not sure why we're looking to change it, but I don't know that if I'm missing something. is there an issue currently with the fact that the mayor is elected?
My thing is, I think if we're going to do a city manager form of government, we need to do a city manager form of government and move forward with what most city manager forms of government do, and I select council members from among elected council members, and they select a mayor from amongst themselves. And I agree with Ms. Jones. Just do something different. What we've been doing in the past has not been working. You know, and you know, and I've been on here 20 years, and I've seen it go all over the place. I'm like, let's do something different. See if it works. You know, and sometimes you got to drag people kicking and screaming to see that what you have in place is really going to benefit them. And I think that's where we are right now in this government. We're growing by leaps and bounds. If we can get the data center, we need to be able to move the city forward in a unified way and in a consistent way. There's a lot of decisions that's going to be coming up that we probably going to have to make, and we need to do it as a unified body. And you need to have 7 council members, I feel, and then once you select amongst yourself, because again, the mayor will only be running the meeting. It's just like the council president. So I just see it as a way to try to do something different. You know, I think, citizens I've talked to have always said that, no. You know, we've had a number of mayors who have been dismal, and I'd rather y'all try something new, you know, and that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, that's
All right,
fair.
thanks.
I just wanted to clarify one thing, though. The council manager form of government is not predominantly done in that way where the mayor is selected from amongst the council members. There are various ways, many different municipalities. Greenbelt is an example where they select amongst the council. There are other council manager forms of government where the mayor is elected separately. But thank you for answering my question. So can we, I'm sorry, because I just want to summarize to Councilman Herring's point of where we are. So we have that the mayor will be selected amongst the 7 elected council members. We will continue with the ward structure where there will be 1 ward representative for each of the 3 wards, and then there will be 4 members at large. Are we saying, because this is the part we haven't gotten consensus on, I've heard council president, and I've heard Councilman Herring, and I've heard myself, but what does the rest of the council think about limiting and Ms. Jones? So what we had, Councilwoman Jones, Councilman Herring on the side of they can be selected from amongst the ward members, council president and myself amongst the at-large.
Can I ask a question before you go further? So what do y'all think about just doing like 2, 2, 2, and 1, and then the at-large you can vote for, that person can run as the mayor?
That would be an alternative where we had the mayor would be the only person running at large.
At large, exactly. Yeah.
And then
it's 2, 2, 2, and then 1.
And then it wouldn't be selected. Yeah, there's lots of different combinations that we can have. We just need to figure out which one we want to have.
Why y'all cringe at that?
I'm not cringing at it. I'm trying to take a tally.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just taking a tally.
Okay, what is the tally?
Well, this is a new, okay, let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back and lay out the options. Okay. Option A is what? No? Okay, I'm gonna call it 1. Option 1 is an elected mayor. And then option 1A is an elected mayor with 2 ward reps making up the other 6 council members. Option 1B is 1 ward rep, and I guess that would be 3, then 3 at large. Yeah, because the mayor would be elected, and then you would have the 6 council members either being 2 per ward or 1 per ward and 3 at large. That's option 1.
Right. The mayor's selected.
No, what Councilman Harrison just said is that the mayor would be elected. People would vote.
They would be at large.
Okay.
Right,
And whoever that is would be the mayor.
right. And then 1A, So the elected person would be the mayor. Then the other six would be 2 from each ward. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that was right. I feel like everybody get what they looking for. I mean, I feel like it's a middle.
Are you saying the mayor would be, okay, if it's 2, 2, 2, and 1, that the at-large would automatically be the mayor?
Yeah.
Versus, but on the ballot, it would not be a mayor and 6
What you
council
mean?
members. I mean, when they go to vote.
I mean, if they running at large and we just got one at large and we got 2 ward
but
2 in
I'm
each
saying-
ward, whoever runs at the large seat will automatically just take the position.
Yeah, whether we call it the mayor or the at-large council member, they would still be the mayor,
They
So we'll be
assume
running
run.
for mayor.
basically.
But it
No.
wouldn't be that.
Then you couldn't have the other, where you want to select from the council.
Right.
Right. So, but on the,
I mean,
I'm just saying, what would the ballots show? A mayor and 6 council members running?
It could show at-large council member and 2 for Ward 1, 2 for Ward 2, 2 for Ward 3. And whoever's the at-large person would be the mayor, or it could say mayor.
I thought we
Yeah, I
said we weren't
think-
gonna vote for a mayor.
But Councilman
That's
Hairston
not
just
what,
put forward
that's not what
another.
I'm saying.
I mean,
I'm
it's-
saying.
He
it's
just
just-
put
it's
forward a
just
new
a
option.
suggestion,
Yeah, he
yeah.
just put forward a new option.
you don't gotta agree with it. It's
I'm
just
trying to
you know what I'm saying?
understand.
I'm just trying to lay out the options for
Because
us so we can know what we voted
some
on.
people wanted to vote for a mayor, some people wanted to the body to just pick one. So it's just an additional option.
Oh, because I was thinking that you were saying the at-large, because the argument was, two of the arguments was, one of the arguments was that they felt like if someone's gonna be a mayor, they should be at-large. They should be an at-large person. So what I'm saying, I'm trying to see, are you saying,
Sounds like that's not going to be an option for us to exercise. Okay.
okay.
I mean, well, that's two. We can hear from the people online. I mean, I think Council President was about to say something. I'm not sure.
Oh, you were finished on you?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to get understanding.
I still don't understand, so.
Okay, so to recap, option 1 that Councilman Hairston just brought about, and I'm only calling it 1 because he just said it and I just wrote it down, is that the mayor would be elected and that the other 6 council members, so people would run for mayor, and then the other 6 council members would be 2 from Ward 1, 2 from Ward 2,
That's not
2
what
from
I'm
Ward
saying.
3. Well, that's what I'm trying to confirm if that's what he's saying.
That's what it sounded like.
It didn't sound like that to me. It sounded like,
Well, only Councilman Hairston can confirm if that's what he's saying.
Well, I just said that mayor. No, I'm saying what I said.
I thought you said, that's how.
A mayor is elected, so people
If
would
they
run
the
for
one that's
mayor.
running at large, and if people wanted to run for mayor, they can run for mayor.
Yeah.
I really honestly don't care really which way it go. But I mean, I feel like they probably should run for mayor. It's 2, 2, 2, and then 1. Since y'all wanted to split, like y'all was trying to figure the split. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, so it would be 2 ward members from each ward. That makes 6 council members, and then 1 person would be running at large, AKA as mayor.
And they just preside over the leading the meetings and whatever y'all say.
Okay. Council President, did that clarify for you?
I don't really care what nobody thinks.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The other option 2 is having a selected mayor. In that case, we could have 2A, where all the council members, all 7, run at large. Option 2B is what we have right now, 1 ward, 1 member per ward. And so that would be 3, and then 4 at large. Option 2C would be, it would essentially be the same thing. 2 ward members, 2 members per ward, and then 1 at large, because that's the only even math. If it's still going to be 7 people, if we have 2, 2, 2, then someone has to run at large. And then the question would become if it sounded like what we were saying is that they could, even if the person ran at large, they could still not be mayor. It could be one of the ward representatives.
Okay. So, so we need to just do our consensus now?
Is there a question?
I don't,
What happened?
I don't think, we didn't hear you clearly.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what, this,
This option is the mayor being selected from the 7 elected council members. Okay, that was the option that we were kind of working through because the consensus was we wanted to select the mayor from amongst the council. So if that's the case, then there are several options. We could go with all council members being at large, 2A. 2B is 1 member per ward, so that would be 3 members, 3 ward members, and then the other 4 at large. Or 2 members per ward and 1 person being at large. In any of these situations, any member would be eligible to be the mayor.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I will-
think I'm sorry.
Did I get that right?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry. It seems like we're just saying the same thing over and over and over again. And so I'm just going to tell my vote. I can go at large. That will be my first vote. But it seems, listening to other council members, they think that's, my understanding of it is that, it should be some type of ward representation. So if we're not going to go for at large, then I can stick with the 1-1-1-4. I'm either going one or the other. So that's
Okay.
my vote.
Why don't we do this? Go through each of these. All council members take a consensus. That one down, go to the next one.
Can I say,
I'm next. Option 2, select the mayor out of the 7. 2B, 1, 1, 1, and 4 at large.
Okay.
1 ward for 1, representative for 1, representative for 2, representative for 3, Ward 3, and then.
and that's the consensus that we have, right? I think that's the majority that we have, right?
No,
so
that's
far.
that's the part that I'm trying to
Well,
determine.
actually, we
which
do. Madam President.
I know, but people
May-
keep saying I can go either way, so we don't really know.
Well-
So we got this 1 member.
Well, hold up, Councilwoman
ward.
Fareed. We got Madam President.
Mm-hmm.
Got Councilwoman Jones. We got myself. We got Councilwoman Guillaume, who have not changed yet. With the 4 at large, 3 for each ward, and selected from amongst the council.
Okay. All right, so then that's the option. And then, then the question was, how often do we select the mayor? Every 4 years, every 2 years was put out, or every year?
Let me say, I agree with Councilman Harrison. You can't change out the mayor every year. It has to be either every 2 or every 4, one of the 2. Can't be every year.
Okay, so my vote is every 4. My vote is that we just choose the person once and that's it.
I'm gonna choose 2. Just in case we don't like.
This is Councilwoman Guillaume. My icon thing isn't working, so I choose, I believe it was Councilman Curtis who had said like a compromise would be 2, I believe, so I choose 2 as well, every 2 years.
Okay.
I can do 2.
Okay.
So it's 2.
2.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Okay, too.
Okay, great. So we're done. We are selecting the mayor.
Thank you, Jesus.
We are selecting the mayor from, I'm just going to repeat it. We are selecting the mayor from amongst the 7 elected council members. We will have 1 council member per ward and 4 at large. Any of those 7 can be elected as mayor. And we will choose the mayor every 2 years. Got
Can
it.
I say something, please?
As long as it doesn't change or bring another option.
It would have been good. But I didn't have.
No, I don't have another option. The only thing that I would say is that I think there should always be checks and balances. And I think by supermajority, I'm just throwing this out there, that whoever is selected to lead as mayor can be recalled if that person's not doing their, like, having certain criteria if they're not doing their job or something like that, or they have, I don't know, done something, I don't know, that isn't becoming of the office of the mayor. But I just think that there should be checks and balances in the same way, kind of how the Senate or the House of Representatives have checks and balances where they can recall their leader if they're not doing their job. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's that. Madam President, man.
No, I'm talking too much. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. We're going to timeout. No, I was just saying, but can we just put that in our council rules? Ms. Ruff?
Oh, what he just said?
Yeah, just that rule that, you know, a supermajority can remove the mayor. Do we have to put that in the charter, or can we just put it in our council rules?
You could probably do either. You see it in some charters, just to make it clear
Right.
that authority lies there and that the council has not gone outside its authority when it does its rules of procedure.
I think we should put it in the charter.
Either one. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Okay. So with that said, we're going to have to go back as the committee and address Article 4 because we don't have those changes reflected in here around the mayor. So it, like, instead of it saying the mayor shall be elected, it should probably say the mayor shall be selected. Right, so we'll have to go back and, I'm sorry,
So, and that is what I alluded to previously. I believe I said it at least. Maybe I didn't. But as a result of this meeting tonight, there are going to be decisions that you all have made that are going to cause us to have to go back and make some tweaks to what you have before you as being what the committee recommends. And so Councilwoman Fareed has identified this as needing to be changed, but there may be other areas once we get to the end of the charter, back towards the end of the charter, that may need to be adjusted as well.
Okay. Thank you.
City manager.
Okay. Article 5 is the city manager. And the city manager will be appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the council. The council would perform an annual performance evaluation for the city manager. The city manager would be the chief administrative officer of the city. And that last bullet is completely wrong. It is that the council manager may designate and the council confirm a department head to act as the city manager if the person is absent or disabled, the city manager is absent or disabled. I apologize for that last bullet.
6315.
Does anybody have any questions about that article? Because that was pretty brief.
I have a question, actually. Ms. Ruff?
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
now this is probably more for a comprehension part for me, but we see how it says and serves at the very first bullet and serves at the pleasure of council. So knowing that we just spent an hour talking about mayor is going to be part of the council and all this stuff, does it imply here that the city manager is going to also serve at the pleasure of the mayor / council, or just the other 6 members? I know it's 7, but I would hate for something to happen and then the city manager says, I don't answer to you, mayor. I answer to the 6 other council members. You know what am I making sense?
Well, so if you recall, when we were talking about a prior article and how it identified the council as being seven members, right? Which would be your 6 council members, like we said, and a mayor. And so the council, the mayor is part of the council. The mayor is going to have legislative powers, just like a council member. And so when you say that they would be appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the council, it would be the body.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, Councilwoman Guillaume, we've addressed that in the charter. I'm not sure if you have the red line in front of you. So wherever it says throughout the charter, mayor and council, we've stricken mayor.
Thank you so much. Okay, I got it. Thank you. I was just going by one. I think it was Council President Ferguson when she had said like there are certain parts that it's ambiguous when we know what it means, but we could hear years down the line people like that's not what it says. So I get it. I got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we've tried to be consistent with that. We'll make sure that it is throughout. But wherever the charter said, or as though they were kind of 2 separate entities, we have taken that out so it's only the council.
Got it.
Where there was a need to specify the person, like where it says council president and council vice president, we've replaced those with mayor and mayor pro tem. Because wherever it specified council president, it was discussing the council president in capacity as the chair of the council.
Okay.
Is there questions? Do you have questions?
I don't even know what we're talking about, but no.
Okay, so next is Article 6. And the only change in Article 6 is in Section 603, and it is updating the reference to state law.
Oh, sorry. My computer died.
So next is Article 7, is my Roman numerals, right? Which is registration, nomination, and election procedures.
Point of order.
Sorry.
Council Clerk, can you please share? My computer has died. There's nowhere to plug it in over here. There's no plug over here.
That's why we need to update it.
No, it's not a plug.
I'm sorry, getting remedial help. I mean, I didn't mean it that way.
No, that way.
I can't minimize.
Did you see how many people was on?
I've done it before, but okay, wait a minute.
They can still hear us. Just FYI. The people online can hear you. I don't know what you're saying. I'm just saying you want a hot mic moment.
No matter So where are you going to?
Article 7. Yep. So that's where we are. So Article 7 deals with registration, nomination, and election procedures. And a summary of the changes proposed are that the Board of Elections would be appointed the first Monday in February in the year preceding the election by council, or of council, I guess we should say. Vacancies will be filled by the council. No member may hold or be a candidate for elective office in the city of Glenarden, and a member of the board may be removed by council resolution. With respect to notice of election, the board must provide 3 months' notice of every city election, and notice should be in the form of an advertisement in a citywide mailer. And then registration to vote would only be available through Prince George's County, and the board would no longer be required to maintain a supplemental voting list. Okay. Then on the next page, with respect to absentee voting, we updated that to meet the requirements of Maryland Code, which basically says you can't ask why they're not able to come vote in person. And the city may not, like I said, require an individual to provide a reason for them being absent. With respect to candidates must file a petition at least 4 months prior to the election instead of 30 days as is now required. And the board will certify candidates at least 100 days prior to the date of the election. And with respect to city wards, we have, I think, answered all of those questions. Any questions about Article 7? And then we can go on to Article 8, which is finance. And the treasurer would be appointed by the city manager with the approval of the council. And the city manager would submit the budget to the council. And that is a summary of the changes in finance.
Yes, before we move on from this. Hold on 1 second, because I'm out of bounds. I actually think that the city manager, I'm sorry, the city treasurer should be appointed by the city manager with approval of the council. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm good. We can go here. We can move on.
Oh, okay.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. So next would be Article 9, which is personnel. So the city manager, not the mayor, would appoint all heads of offices and departments with notification to the council. All subordinate offices would be removed by the city manager and the respective department heads, and not the mayor.
Okay, so I have a question. Yeah. The city manager, not mayor, would appoint all heads of all offices and departments with notification to the council. So the process that we have now where we look at the people that apply for the job is applied through human resources. We look at all the applications. We do a interview of the prospective candidates. That will be no longer.
That would be no longer.
Let me pull up.
And that may not be what the committee intended, and maybe that's a point of discussion for you all. But yes, if you have the city manager appoint the heads of the departments with notification to the council. I think the idea was to give the city manager full administrative authority with respect to that.
Yeah, so I was sorry, I was just going to read what it says, the red line, since we don't have it up. This is section 901. The city manager with notification to the council shall appoint the heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government as established by this charter or by ordinance. All office, department, and agency heads shall serve at the pleasure of the city manager. All subordinate officers and employees of the offices, departments and agencies of the city government shall be hired and removed by the city manager and respective department heads in accordance with existing rules and regulations, as well as in any merit system which may be adopted by the council, sorry. Yeah, so that's what the full section says.
Madam President? Oh,
Yeah, okay, Councilman Harris.
yeah, I do have a problem with this article. I think that the city manager can appoint, but I think that the department heads need to be approved by the council. Again, I mean, the charter gives the council the authority to create, abolish, or amend departments, and I think we should have a say in who runs those departments. So I think that we need to put that back in place. Also, the removal, I think we need to look at that too. I don't think a city manager should just have ultimate control to remove a department head that's in place. So I think we do need to put the approval. The city manager can appoint, but it needs to be approved by the council for department heads. Our subordinates, that's different. Thank you.
So then we need a consensus.
Yes.
We need a consensus, because I think this committee meeting was only you and I in this.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't realize my mic was still on. Good thing I'm not saying anything crazy. I was just saying that we need a consensus then on what to do. When we did this in the committee, in case anyone's wondering why Councilman Herring is saying something, he's on the committee, is because Councilman Herring wasn't in that committee meeting. So this was something that we discussed, Council Vice President and myself and the attorney. So we need a consensus now on what to do. The part that's stricken is approval of the council. So what you're suggesting, Councilman Herring, is that it should say the city manager with, oh, sorry, because it said before the mayor on the recommendation of the city manager, but we struck that part out. So now it says the city manager with notification to the council. What do you want it to say?
With approval of the council.
Okay, so the city manager with confirmation of the council? Okay, and should we define what that means? Like, because I think what I'm hearing, like what Councilwoman Jones said, is that we would go through the resumes, interview the person. That to me sounds different than confirming what the city manager is bringing forward.
Person, you would have to look and see their background, because I wouldn't want for the city manager to hire somebody and it be, end up being willy-nilly, and this council didn't have any say in it. And once again, the city's at risk, because we got, there's chaos because you've hired somebody that was not confirmed by the council. We, as a council, need to know who we are bringing on board as a department head. Not necessarily subordinates, but department heads, because we're paying their salaries. That's part of fiduciary responsibility. We need to know that if we bring somebody on, that the person is brought on, that it's something that all of us agree to collectively.
No, I get that part. I think that this is, one of those things where we say, what does confirm mean? Because for some, that might be the city manager says, I've interviewed these 7 candidates. I think, this is the one I want to go with. Here's all their background information. And we review it and say, yep, this person looks good. Where some might say, no, it means I want to interview all 7 or be a part of all those interviews that you were in as well. So I think we need to clarify what are we saying the council is doing? Are we first line interviewing, or are we second level reviewing? What is the confirmation?
The confirmation process to me would be to look at the resumes that are submitted by the city manager as who what they've chosen. And then, if necessary, if the council member wants to have an interview with the person, I think that should be done. I don't think it should be given to a sole person, the city manager, to determine who's going to be in a department head. Because if all of a sudden, if something comes up, all of a sudden, oh, I don't like the way they do certain things, and then they're dismissed. We don't need that kind of chaos. Thank you.
I can't see if anybody's raising their hand or anything. I know you probably can't now either.
You
So
said it would pop up.
maybe just let Council President and Councilwoman Guillaume know to just talk if they need to say something.
Councilmember Guillaume and Council President, would you just speak up because I can't see if you're raising your hand, if you have questions?
I'm not raising my hand.
Madam President. and-
I wasn't. Are you guys looking for a vote from us?
Yeah.
Well, yes, because we need a consensus. One, do we want to change what the proposal was? The proposal is that it would say the city manager with notification to the council shall appoint the heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government as established by this charter. And Councilman Herring is saying that he wants to change it to say confirmation of the council. So we need agreement. Do we agree to say that the city manager can notify the council, or do you feel that the council should confirm the department heads?
I'm fine with confirmation as long as I'm not in that process of interviewing. Like, I think the city manager should have somewhat the full authority to hire good people in his or her staff that can get the job done. Now, if council wants to confirm, I don't mind confirming. But I am against being the city manager and doing interviews and all the other stuff. I think that we'll run into a huge issue of retaining a city manager if we don't properly equip him or her to do their job.
Okay, so then your definition of confirmation is different than Councilwoman Jones's definition of confirmation. So,
Just a checks and
Councilwoman
balances.
Guillaume, could you repeat Councilwoman Jones, or Councilwoman Jones, her mic wasn't on, I don't believe, they didn't
My
hear what
mic
she
was on.
said.
No, we heard what she said.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay, let's start from, do we believe that the city manager should have the authority to hire and just notify the council? Can we get a consensus on that? I know Councilman Herring is no, Councilman Jones is no.
I'm no as well.
Okay, 3 no's. Councilman Curtis, I'm sorry, I assumed you were yes since we did this, since this is what we wrote. Or no?
Department heads. I would say no.
Okay, so then we'll change it to confirmation. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Guillaume.
It's okay. What's the consensus so far? Is if the consensus is already 4 people, then that's fine. We could just go ahead with what the consensus is.
So we'll say the city manager with confirmation to the with confirmation of the council shall appoint the heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government as established by this charter or by ordinance. Now what's under question is, what does confirmation mean? Because as Council President describes it, is more along what I'm thinking, that it would not involve being in the process. It would just be kind of looking at the recommended candidate and then confirm, and by looking at, meaning on paper, looking at resume, hearing from the city manager on why he or she thinks that person is the best person for that role, and then determining it. But it sounds like some council members feel like they want to be able to interview the candidate. So 2 choices for confirmation. Interviewing, or let's just go with interviewing. Who would like to interview? Who feels that confirmation is interviewing?
Madam President, man. Yeah, I think that's part of the process.
Okay.
Looking at a resume and just reading it and not really meeting with the person. We're going to make a major decision on people who are going to run these departments and, spending lots of thousands of dollars on those departments, close to $1 million on some of them. I feel that, we should have the option to be able to speak to that person if we so choose.
Okay, so that's 2 for interviewing.
Can I interject, please? So I don't want to take anybody's right to interview, because I think, if you look at, what even done on a federal level, like, people have the option to, like, pull a candidate in the office who's been in confirmation hearings and interview them one-on-one. I think that is the right of a council member, but I don't think it should be mandated. So if council members want to meet with them, fine. But if they don't, I don't think the people who don't, I don't think that should be necessarily a mandated criteria of the job description of a council member. For some council members, it may be okay just to read the resume and be comfortable with where the city manager wants to go. And for others, it might just be that, hey, I hear what you're saying, but I want to speak to this person further just to solidify my vote as a yes. So I don't think it has to be either or. I just don't think where it is now, I think council members feel that, at least I do, feel that it's a mandate that we interview some people. So I think we can have it both ways.
So it's okay. Let's finish taking the consensus just so we can lock that down. We have 2 who are definite for interviewing.
But that's
Is that this for department heads?
If I feel like, if I'm sitting here looking at resumes that have been presented to me. And
Maurice, I believe that's what they're saying, but they can't hear us. But
I'm sorry.
Oh, Councilman Harrison joined us online.
Yes, he did. Anyway, if I feel, that's why I'm feeling, if I'm sitting here looking at resumes and I've been presented with resumes and a suggestion on who the city manager wants, and I'm looking at the resume and I see something in question that some other council member may not see, I should be able to have the option to address that with the candidate.
Okay, so the consensus is mandatory interviewing versus optional, right? So right now, it sounds like you're not for mandatory interviewing. Councilman Herring, do you feel that interviews should be mandatory for the council?
I think it's every council member's decision whether they want to meet with the candidate or not. I, as a council member, feel it's my responsibility to the citizens to meet with any potential candidate that's going to hold any department position here. So, it's their, whatever they want to do. Personally, I don't think we should be doing one-on-ones with candidates. We either do it as a group of whoever wants to meet with that candidate at one time, and that's it. If it's only 3 of us, fine. If it's 4, fine. But I don't think it needs to be mandatory, but the option should be there for us to do that.
Okay, so then what I've heard sounds like we have a consensus for interviewing to be optional, but go ahead.
Okay, just for clarity, now we're talking about, say for instance, there are 6 candidates, and then the city manager picks 1. Now we're talking about having the option to interview that person, not asking for all 6 resumes and then going and we choosing.
No.
Right.
Just the person
could you, yeah.
been submitted, and because in the end, whatever the quorum is going to be, the consensus is going to be, that's who's going to come on board. Because she can submit, or he could submit someone, and it could be, when we get down to the vote, it could be 3-4, and that person isn't brought on board. Or it could be 5-2, and then the person is brought on board.
Okay, I just wanted clarity because I know there have been times when someone was up for being hired and considered, we get packages for more than one person as if we was choosing. So I don't think that the council should be selecting from a group of candidates, whichever he or she, if the city manager chooses, then for those, like Councilman Herron said, whoever wants to interview, then they can.
Okay, so can I just summarize then what we're saying? The language would be the city manager with confirmation of the recommended candidate. With confirmation of the recommended candidate, no. With confirmation by council of the recommended candidate. Sorry. So that it's not all of the candidates, it's whoever the city manager is recommending.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but therein lies the issue of, okay, 4 people have applied for the position, and the recommendation is someone, whereas maybe someone else in the pile might have been a better, that's the issue. From my perspective, this person would have probably been a better match than what they've chosen.
Well,
How do we get around
would we
that?
then just look at the recommended candidate, right? Because I don't think it's really a comparison of the other candidates, but if we look at that recommended candidate and we say we don't think that this person is a good fit, then it's on the city manager to go back and look maybe at the other 4 candidates and bring somebody else forward versus us sitting in that seat and kind of saying, okay, here are all of the candidates to choose from. I think this is the best candidate.
Yeah, but you don't want to get into the thing where somebody says they felt like they were the better candidate and they weren't chosen, and then all of a sudden we've got legal coming.
Everybody thinks they're the better candidate. Everybody thinks they're the better. They don't know
But then
who the
there's
other
some people
candidates
that might
are.
really think that I really am the best candidate, and I'm going to really push this, and they may not really be the best candidate, but they feel like they are, and they're going to push it. Or they may be the best candidate, and we find out that they are. So, okay.
I don't know what I've never heard of that. I mean, but I'm working the private sector, so I don't know. You don't get the job, you just don't get the job. I don't get to see who else is.
Council President Curtis has his hand.
President Curtis?
Yeah, I'm willing to just move on. I'm on the same boat as I think Councilwoman Fareed. I think as we get into like getting a bunch of resumes, then we actually effectively doing the job of the city manager. If we don't think who she selected, that one person is selected, is up for the job. We find something that is just distasteful, we don't have confidence in, then we can move on and we effectively say, hey, look, well, this person in the past, you need to go back out there and find another qualified candidate. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm willing to move on. Sorry.
The second piece was about the removal of the people. All office, department, and agency heads shall serve at the pleasure of the city manager. And I think what we're now saying is all office, department, and agency heads shall serve at the pleasure of the city manager with confirmation from the council. So that the city manager has to get or with approval, not confirmation, with approval of council. So that the city manager has to get approval from the council before removing a department head. Is that what we're saying? Okay. Okay.
One other thing, this section is actually different here than what was passed by Councilwoman Ferguson and Councilwoman Jones. So you may want to check E-code.
So
Yeah.
when we were putting together this PowerPoint and I was comparing what's on E-code with what we have here, we found out that E-code has not been updated in a very long time. And what we've been working from goes through the end of 21. And there were no charter resolutions in the 23-24. There were none in 22-23, but there are 2 that did not make it. And I have put a note here about that. And I can pull it up and read it to you, but the language can incorporate and will incorporate what you've done here. It pretty much says the same thing, that it's with the approval of council. So,
Right.
Because I believe that one was saying that we made it mayor or council because, I mean, it was your part of it. 901, where we changed it to make it mayor or council.
No.
So that it wasn't just the mayor who had the
No,
authority.
they changed 901 to strictly council.
Strictly council. That's why I said to pull it, you know, because I know that it wasn't updated yet. And so I thought, working with the two resolutions charter resolutions.
But does this say anything different then? Like what we're proposing to change it to, is that, I think that's what you still want.
No, I just wanted to know when she makes the changes that we got the most recent, because that charter resolution did go through. So I think we just need to make sure we have the most recent change for 901, because I do know that went through, and you may want to get it from the council clerk so that when she does it, it's right with the strikeouts.
and I have that notation, and it is CR 0421. That, and here we go. Here's the approved legislation. CR 04. All right, so CR 04, I'm sorry, my phone is just, I lost power on my computer, or I would be pulling it up there. Okay, so what it now says, that's section 902, not 903. CR 0222. I'm sorry. Okay, so what it says is the city may employ such officers and employees as it deems necessary to execute the powers and duties provided in this charter or other state law and to operate city government. Notwithstanding any other provision of this charter, all heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government, and all subordinate officers and employees of the offices, departments, and agencies of the city government shall, upon recommendation of the city manager, be appointed and removed by the council, which is essentially what you've been talking about today.
Except we're getting rid of the subordinate part and allowing the city manager to deal with that. Okay.
But yes, I have noted that we had to go back and
okay.
change that language.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we done?
We can be. All right, so that was Article 9, and now we're 10, which is public ways and sidewalks. And all the change that's proposed is clarify that the city does not have control over Prince George's County public ways. With respect to Article 10, city property, Article 12, general provisions, and your appendix regarding urban renewal, no changes were noted in there. And then, as we've already referenced, throughout the city charter, we updated all the state law references. We updated references to state agencies whose names had changed. We updated references from City Hall to City Municipal Center. And then it's also proposed that the requirement for a majority vote be amended to add unless otherwise required by law or this charter, because there are some provisions in state law that require supermajority vote, such as if you're going to spend money that was not appropriated in the annual budget, you need a supermajority vote to do that. So.
So, I mean, that concludes our review. Thank you so much. I want to personally thank Council Vice President Ferguson and Councilman Herring, as well as Attorney Ruff. It has been a long process for us to review this. There's been a long, thoughtful, and deliberative process. There's been a lot of discussion around the changes that are being proposed. So thank you, Council, for hanging in there with us for the last 2.5 hours. But I think that this is demonstrative of the fact that reviewing the charter or making changes to the charter is not an insignificant matter. This is something that will be undertaken every 10 years. And so we should not expect to have to do this every year. But with that, I think that the changes that we have brought forward are changes that will help the city operate more efficiently. Citizens have had an opportunity from the very first committee meeting that we've had to observe and to hear some of the context and the rationale around the changes that are being made. So we feel that we've done a great job of making sure that this was a transparent process, and even having this work session where we're discussing things. We will follow the charter resolution process as described by law. There will be a public hearing. There will be an advertisement of the charter resolution that will be presented after we've clarified some of the points that have been discussed here. And then there will be an opportunity for citizens to provide their comments before we as a council vote. It was very important for us to have this deliberation as a council before that, because we would hate to go through all that process, advertising, et cetera, and not have agreement, at least amongst the council, on what is being proposed. So we should expect to conclude this process sometime near the end of the summer or early fall. And we look forward to the engagement of the citizens as we round out the end of this process. Do you want to say anything, committee members?
Does any of the, no, I'm good. Is that enough?
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed, for your leadership on this, and Councilwoman Ferguson for, us sitting through this. It was a daunting task. I've been trying to get this done for years, and I'm glad we finally got to the point where we can move the city forward. And I think I think this is going to be great for the city. I really do. I think it's going to be really great for the city. I think that people are going to see a big difference and see how efficient the government is going to run with these changes in place. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Does any other council member have anything? Everybody good?
This is Councilwoman Guillaume. Can you all hear me? This
Yes,
is
we
Councilwoman
can.
Guillaume. I
Yes.
just want to thank the 3 council members, Council Vice President, Councilwoman Fareed, and Councilman Herring, for your leadership on this task. I know it's not favorable to be taking on, let alone be part of a committee that meets for a long time, but taking on the task of addressing how a municipality is going to be governed. And you can't please everyone at all. It's not going to ever happen. But the fact that the 3 of you put yourselves on the line, it has not been easy for the 3 of you. I can already tell, but you made it here and we're close to the finish line. So I just want to thank the 3 of you. And I also want to thank Attorney Ruff for her support and guidance and leadership throughout all this process that she's provided to the 3 of you. So thank you for making us an even greater municipality than how we even started.
Thank you, Councilwoman
Thank you.
Guillaume.
I just want to echo.
Councilman Curtis, President Curtis.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be long. Just going to echo what Councilman Guillaume said. Thanks to everyone on the committee and the attorney. I know it's long, hard work repeating ourselves just so we understand exactly what each other are saying. So I really do appreciate all the work that you guys have put into it, and I'm grateful and know that we'll get this thing past the finish line. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones.
And I also echo the 2 prior council persons. I appreciate what you all have done. Like they've said, this has probably been a very daunting task for you all to do. Attorney Ruff, thank you for sitting in and just giving us I think the idea was always there, but we just needed the attorney to come in and say, this is to give us guidance and clarity. And the 3 of you have done a marvelous job. I appreciate it. And I thank all 3 of you in order to move the city forward. the city needs to go forward. And this is one of the things that needed to be addressed to move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Councilman Harrison.
So I just want to echo the council members that spoke before me. Man, this was a great job. I know it took a lot of work and a lot of time, and it was a great session tonight too, because we got out of here at 9:30. So huge shout out to y'all and all y'all hard work. Thank you again.
I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to say this is not the longest council meeting that we've ever had. I feel like this is one of the shortest ones that we've had, and this is a lot of material to get through, considering that we reviewed the whole charter. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and I do want to thank my colleagues. We worked pretty good together, and I thank Council Attorney Ruff for all the time she spent with us, and the presentations were great as well. So I thank everyone. And with that said, it's 9:32 and this meeting is adjourned.